Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Okay, so the first for some reason I can't get the chat up. Right, so you just have to follow the chat in the box. So the chat doesn't seem to come up on the screen. I'm not sure why exactly that is. Try to do this if I can, see if it works. Chat doesn't seem to come up on the screen. Actually, it is. Oh yeah. Excellent. Okay, so brilliant. Right, so can anyone hear me? Yeah, you can. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Fahim. Wa alaikum assalam, Abu Yusuf. From which UK? I mean, from Birmingham. Sheikh Ali, mashallah, ahlan wa sahlan, marhaban. So this session is only going to be for 1 hour, okay? I'm only going to do this session for 1 hour, inshallah, until 6 o'clock. And then it's stopped. So I'm only going to be answering, first of all, I'm going to be giving priority to questions related to Ramadan. And other sort of like questions, I'm probably not going to answer if I don't get time. Alright, so let's start with the questions then. Alright, so Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Is there any Hanafi books that you could recommend for self-study, as I currently don't have time to study with a teacher? The thing about fiqh is I don't recommend anyone to study Hanafi fiqh without a teacher. Any fiqh. Unless you've studied a few books with a teacher before. I wouldn't recommend studying any sort of like books without a teacher, because it's very, very tricky. There's so much terminology in there. There's so much sort of like confusion that can occur when you're reading. Very, very important, I would say, to study with a teacher. So, I mean, if you want to study something basic, maybe, I don't know, something like Al-Fiqh al-Hanafi wa Adillatuhu by Saghurji. That's quite easy. Fiqh al-Hanafi wa Saghurji. It's in Arabic. Okay, translation of وَالتَّعَرُّض لِمَا أَعَدَّ لِأَهْلِهِ مِنْ رِضْوَانِهِ وَعَظِيمِ فَضْلِهِ. Okay, I'll have to translate that later. Jazakallah khair for your Quran video series. Jazakallah khair. So yeah, so the editor that I have, he's actually, he had symptoms of coronavirus, and then he got better, and then he's got symptoms again. So make dua for him. That's why with those videos it's a bit tricky. Okay, salam. A friend of mine was praying salat, and she was going in sajda, and she saw Jannah, heavy golden doors with big handles, and someone calling him by name, telling her to enter. At this point she became emotional and began to cry because she could hear a whisper from Shaitaan saying, I will not let you go, I will stop you. What could this mean? I have no idea at all. I've never heard this before, and no, I don't know. Was it a dream or something? Okay, dear Ustad, would killing someone in self-defense be considered qatl khata, hence diyat and kafara? It depends. It depends what kind of, how it was. Was it as in, were they fighting them? Were they hitting them? If it was in a fight, it was a fight situation, and they died, possibly khata, and possibly even left. The blood will, in other words, they won't have to pay a thing. So it all depends. Okay, I understand that I have got zakat on the rent of, I have to give zakat on the rent of a property which I own and I rent out to someone. However, what if I have already spent the amount which I collected? No, you don't have to give zakat on that. You only have to give zakat on the day which your zakat is necessary. Yeah, on that day, basically. For example, zakat calculation, is zakat calculated on all rent collected in the zakatable year, or is zakat on the amount which you have with you on your date calculation? Yes, only on the date of your calculation of zakat you have to give that. And what I would say is, check out the video crash course of zakat. In there I've explained this. Yeah, so whatever you have on your zakat date, that's all you're going to be giving, right? That's all you're going to be giving. Okay, next. Dear Mufti Saab, I've heard that Ta'dil Arkan is such a strong wajib that if someone missed it in the prayer, Sajda Sahu would not compensate for it. Instead, one would have to redo their prayer. According to Hanafis, I've never heard this. No, I haven't heard this before. Yeah, Ta'dil Arkan is basically pausing in the ruku for at least one Subhanallah, and pausing in sujood for at least one Subhanallah. That's it. Okay, is masturbation permissible? Okay, this I'll answer it separately. Will crying in prayer because of some emotional pain or thinking about something, for example, thinking about a fight with my husband, will such crying nullify the prayer? No, it won't nullify the prayer unless you make noise and the sounds come out, right? And that sound like something which is said in language, right? And then it will possibly break the prayer. Okay. Okay, let's check out some questions here then. Okay, so wa alaikum assalam everyone. Fahim, some organizations have started not a funeral savings plan but a plan where you pay X amount for yourself and Y amount per household, and then if you die they will cover the funeral costs, the basic amount. Things to bear in mind: if you stop paying and die, they won't cover. If you stop paying and won't want to join again, you have to pay the arrears. You don't stop paying off when you teach. Yeah, so this kind of a thing, this is based on volunteering. Yeah, so this is like a volunteering thing. Otherwise, if they consider it to be something which is necessary, or they consider their money that they've invested in there to be something they want back, then that's considered to be like an insurance policy, and that's haram. That is not allowed, right? So normally, I mean, I'm involved in some in a funeral policy as well, which is basically every time someone passes away in my community, I give about £50, and then that goes towards their funeral. And then if I die, then they. But this is something which is not necessary, because your funeral, you're supposed to give it from the money of the deceased. That's what you're supposed to do. So the money of the deceased, that goes towards the funeral, and then anything left, it goes towards any bequest or any debts that they had to pay off, and then the rest is shared amongst the heirs. That's basically how it works. But yeah, this kind of thing, I'd have to look into it. I mean, depending exactly what are the conditions, what are the terms and conditions of the contract. But the way that you're describing it to me, it seems as though it's not permissible. As in, they are making it necessary on you. You lose your money if you, and it doesn't seem to be very voluntary. Wa alaikum assalam, Crypto. What does it mean when they say Shaitaan is locked up? So when the Prophet ﷺ says the Shaitaan is locked up, we don't exactly know what the description of that shackling is. Like, is it physically Shaitaan is put under the sea and is locked up? Does it mean that Shaitaan, has some sort of restrictions on him in this month? Does it mean that Shaitaan's influence is decreased? What does it exactly mean? But what we do know is that Shaitaan, people do less bad things in this month than normal. Yeah. Fahim, is this sort of plan allowed? Okay. Hamza is Assalamu alaikum. How much of Qudur do you think is necessary to study? Do you think it should be studied cover to cover before moving on to another book? Yes, I think Quduri, if you want, it depends what you want basically. You want to master the Hanafi madhab, you need to study entire Quduri. If you just want to get a bit of a taste of the Hanafi madhab, then you can study certain chapters. Certain chapters would be fine. Okay. Nasir, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We should lead. Who should lead in prayers? I mean, is there a criteria of piety? So basically, the person who should lead in prayer is the one who knows the most about Islam and the one who knows the most Quran. That's the person who should lead, basically. If obviously a person knows there's a guy who drinks alcohol, but he knows the most Quran, then he shouldn't be allowed to pray. He shouldn't be allowed to lead the salat. He should pray behind. If you're praying at home, then it's actually the person who owns the house, the man of the house. He actually has right to lead. Okay, let's check these questions out. Assalamu alaikum. I had a question. Okay. Sorry, I was unable to complete the previous question and accidentally sent it. Can Sadaqatul Fitr be given to a non-Muslim? No. Can fidya for missed fast be paid to a non-Muslim? I mentioned this before. Apparently, the Hanafi texts don't seem to differentiate, but it seems as though there is some leeway. But what I would say, to be on the safe side, no. You give it to the same people that zakat can be given to. Can fidya for jinayat of ihram or umrah or hajj be given to? No. Again, same for zakat, same zakat people. Can kafara of feeding for breaking a fast or breaking an oath be given to non-Muslims? Yes. Kafara, possible. Let me think. Kafara for breaking an oath, possibly, yeah. It'am asharati masakin. Yeah. So there's possibility there. I feel these issues are not addressed, and by living in non-Muslim countries, we have more access to non-Muslim people than Muslim people, poor people. If you can please answer this in detail, as I'd like to understand. What I would suggest is, if you want it in detail, you need to study these properly. I mean, in these live sessions, I don't want to go into detail. I mean, I know you're saying in detail, and if 10 other people say to me, every question I want you to go into detail, then I think that's not fair for these sessions. Especially these sessions are not that long anyway. So if you want to go in detail, what I suggest is study these chapters properly from someone. If you have to pay someone to study these chapters, pay them. But that's how I would say you want to study. You want to understand it properly, then this is what you're going to have to do. Okay. Dear Mufti, please can you post these questions and answers on your website where one can search for previously asked questions like IslamicQA.com and other QA websites. I'm sure you have repeat answers, same questions again and again, which wastes your time. If there was a place where you could just search for questions, in Curious Cat you can't search for questions. Please consider this. Out of many sites and mashallah scholars doing this work, I feel your way of answering, explaining is unmatched. I prefer asking you, as I know you get clear explanations. So, I mean, I do not like fatwa websites. I'm totally against fatwa websites. Many of you guys might know this already. I totally think that they are a cause of a lot of problems in the community, fatwa websites. The reason being is because people who do not understand read these questions and the answers are not for them, and then they get confused. They haven't studied fiqh, and they'll study like a mas'ala in a certain chapter which is to do with nikah or talaq or to do with hajj or to do with anything like that, and they get confused. So I think most people, 60-70% of people who read fatwa websites get confused, don't understand what the mufti is saying. That's why I'm against these. And the only reason I did these live sessions is so that it helps people out there who have questions that can get answered. But these websites should never ever be used to learn Islam. Remember that these websites, some people use these websites to learn Islam. That's wrong. You don't use these websites to learn Islam, because fatwas are designed for a particular individual. And if a doctor, for example, had a medical website, imagine how dangerous that could be. You look on the cough, right? Cough. What does the mufti doctor say? The doctor says, okay, take paracetamol. Okay, take this. You can't, because for every cough there could be other variables which require giving a different medication, and this is the same thing. So when people's questions are being answered, I do not like having these questions stored away. Even if I could delete all the questions on Curious Cat, I would delete all them. Yeah, but there's too many. So the whole point is these sessions is for a person to be able to confidently ask a question, and then I, in my best way, I try to answer them. That's the whole point. That's why I don't want to have a website. And inshallah, I don't think I'll ever be having a website where I'll have my questions and answers on there. If one prays 4 rakats salat al-duha in the mid-morning, does he have to say thana and ta'awuz and tasmiyah in the beginning of the third, and as it is the ghair muakkada prayer? Not necessarily. There is an ikhtilaf, but not necessarily. The morning prayer should be prayed in twos anyway. You should pray it two like that. Yeah, you should pray in twos. So the duha prayer. Okay, let's check some here. Ya Allah. Assalamu alaikum. Weza Beats. What is the had for a pickpocket who snatches? For example, he grabs your phone and run with it. Can we cut the hand? I mean, these kind of questions, I prefer not to answer them. It's Ramadan, and I prefer to focus on more Ramadan questions. If you have Ramadan questions, zakat questions, these kind of things, I'll answer them. But these kind of things, I don't think it's necessary to know the answer to this question. So a pickpocket is actually given a more severe punishment than the thief, right? Because it's not really theft, it's more than theft. MashaAllah, Jazakallah khair, Allahu Akbar. Hassan, Allahu Akbar, Jazakallah khair. May Allah reward you for your generous donation. Allahu Akbar, Hassan, mashallah. May Allah bless you. But yeah, for pickpocket, it would be a more severe punishment than theft, right? And that's all down to it's left to the discretion of the judge. Fahim, you don't get money back if you stop paying. Yeah, so that's the thing, isn't it? So it seems a bit dubious, as in, okay, so if a person was to stop paying, then what happens to their money? What's their money considered to be? Is it considered to be a charity? Has it gone as a donation to the people? And then, like you're saying, that if this person stops and they want to rejoin, right, all those years they have to give. So this idea of have to give, this seems to be very problematic as well, as in you're imposing on someone a monetary fee. Okay, Muhammad, Islam, trust funds are counted for zakat. It depends on the trust fund, how the trust fund works. The fund, wa alaikum salam, Manfado, assalamu alaikum Hazrat, can I take my nasal spray whilst fasting as I need it for medical reasons? So the nasal spray, how does it exactly work? If the nasal spray, it allows particles to go into the throat, then no, it would break your fast, and you wouldn't have to do kafara, right? So it'd be a legitimate reason you can take it. But if the nasal spray only acts in the nose, it doesn't go beyond the nose, then it'd be allowed. Okay. Next, HK. In the Quran, on the top of a letter, there is sometimes a small letter on top of that. Which letter do you pronounce? I don't understand. So if you could show me something. If I am reading the Quran during Taraweeh, 1 page per rakat, and a verse of sajda is at the very end of the page, do I stand up and then do ruku go straight into ruku? Yes. Yeah, so if you read the entire ayah, once you finish the ayah in which there's a sajda, you do the sajda. And you can actually go into ruku with the intention of sajda. That would suffice as well. So let's say, for example, the page finishes on ruku, and you said Allahu Akbar, you go into ruku with the intention of sajda, that's fine. Your ruku is done, and also your sajda will be done. Jazakallah khair, Hassan. May Allah bless you. May Allah put barakah in your time and your health and your wealth. Ameen. Jazakallah khair. I'm showing you look very good in your picture as well, bro. Okay, Bush Miss Ramadan Mubarak. How are you? Alhamdulillah, I'm very well. Can a woman use a coil if she does and experience signs that she is on her periods but does not see blood? Should she fast or wait until? So yes. So if a woman was to use a coil, which basically stops her bleeding, then she will not be considered to be menstruating unless blood comes out. So if blood comes out, then she's considered to be menstruating. Otherwise, she won't be considered to be menstruating. Okay. Why now? Just wanted to quickly ask this in Hanafi fiqh. During Ramadan, when doing witr in congregation, does the Imam recite aloud in all 3 rakats? And what about other than Ramadan? So according to the Hanafi school, when it comes to witr, basically throughout the year, the witr is not allowed to be prayed in congregation, and it should be recited quietly. But in Ramadan, it's recommended for it to be recited in congregation, and it's recommended for the Imam should recite aloud. Right, he recites aloud except for the dua qunut. So dua qunut, according to the stronger position in the madhab, the dua qunut is recited quietly. Okay, Jazakallah khair for your valuable time. It's helpful for you to answer Q&A like this. Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khair. You're welcome. Manfado, the nasal spray is liquid. However, when it's sprayed, it's like vapor and goes up into this may go down my throat, but I don't feel it going down. Yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one. I mean, I have spoken to a doctor about this, and he said that the nasal spray, actually particles might go down the throat. So if there's if somehow you can use it, you can guarantee that there's nothing going into the nasal at the back into your throat, then possibly. Otherwise, if it does affect a person with, someone might have hay fever or something and they have to take it, then it's totally fine. They can take it and their fast will break, and they'll just have to do a qada later on. This is according to Hanafi school. I mean, I'm not sure about the other madhabs on this issue. What I would suggest is maybe you might want to ask the fatwa from another madhab. There might be opinion which might make it easier for you, right, in that situation. So in that case, you would be allowed to take the position of another madhab on this issue. SMB, wa alaikum assalam. UZL Productions. Is there any valid hila for zakat? Is there any valid hila for zakat? I don't understand. As in, what scenario? Give me a scenario. Remember, all hilas, any stratagem in Islam to try to make a haram halal, right, is not allowed at all. Yeah, and it's sinful. But anything which is to avoid a person falling into haram, so a person avoiding falling into haram, then that hila is allowed. Okay, S Khan, Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This is an icky one. With all the coughing around at the moment, does coughed up phlegm break the fast if it reaches the mouth and is swallowed? No. So vomit will only, so this would come under the ruling of vomit. If vomit is vomited a full mouth, right, and it comes into a person's mouth, a large amount, and then they are able to spit it out, but they don't spit it out, they swallow it, then the fast will break. But if it's less than a full mouth and they deliberately swallow it, then it won't nullify the fast. And this is similar to coughing as well. So if a person was to cough it up and they swallowed it back down, it would not break the fast. Okay, let's just have a check over here then. Some questions here. Alright, so dear Sheikh, if I use the Vicks inhaler, does during fasting, will it break my fast? The Vicks inhaler is a stick which has menthol and other ingredients which is inserted in the nose and sniffed. So the ruling according to the Hanafis basically is that if a person inhales deliberately anything that has particles in there, like droplets or any small little gaseous particles, right, like smoke, then that would break the fast, right? Because the Hanafis say anything that goes into the throat deliberately breaks the fast. But if it's something which is out of your control, you can't really control it. So for example, you're cooking food and steam was to go into your mouth, and it wasn't something deliberately done, then that would not break the fast because it wasn't done deliberately. With regards to Vicks is only vapor. So vapor doesn't have particles. It's just a strong sort of like air that goes into your nose. It can go into your lungs, but it doesn't have particles. So if it has particles, that's when the problem arises. Okay. Next. Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Just wanted to ask if you have read Tafsir al-Mazhari by Qadi Thana al-Panipati. I've never heard you mentioning it, and I've always found it to be one of the best tafsir. Yeah, it's a good tafsir. I wouldn't say it's the best tafsir. It's a good tafsir. Depends what you're looking for, really. It's a good tafsir. It's a very, very, sort of like comprehensive tafsir. But I don't think it's. I can suffice with Ruh al-Ma'ani and Tahrir al-Tanwir instead of going to that. Yeah, so it's a good tafsir. Definitely, I do sometimes now and again look at it. But if I can understand the ayah through Ruh al-Ma'ani or maybe Razi or Kashaf or Abu Sa'ud or these guys, then I don't need to go to because I know he has probably used one of those previous ones anyway. Okay, next one. Can you confirm if a man can do i'tikaf at the circumstances many scholars deny it? So i'tikaf can only be done in the masjid. If he can go to the masjid and maybe stay in the masjid and someone brings him food, then that is permissible. He can do i'tikaf. I'tikaf cannot be done outside the masjid. Right? So as long as he can do it in the masjid, then alhamdulillah. Otherwise, no, you can't do i'tikaf in the masjid. Okay, next. Are trading stock options halal? It all depends. Trading stock options, it all depends exactly how the trading works. What I would suggest is if you Google Mufti Faraz Adam and type up trading stock, halal trading stocks, and he has lots of articles on this. Very, very well. I mean, he knows more than me in this area, right? So all I can tell you is, if you were to show me, like for example, particular scenario, I could give you like what the fiqh would say, but to be able to explain to you how the stocks would work in today's society, that was something which is beyond me. Yeah, so I would suggest checking what he says. Okay, let's check out here. So, blessed journey. Does the doubt of a muqtadi in his wudu affect the imam's salah in any way? No, not at all. The muqtadi salat is not connected to the imam's salat in any way. If the muqtadi was to nullify his salat, it would not affect the salat of the imam. But if the imam was to nullify his salat, then that would nullify the salat of the followers. Okay. Alright, next. If you go to Surah Mulk verse 11, there is a small meme on top of the noon. How do you pronounce this? Okay, let me check. I mean, I'm not a hafiz, so I'll have to check what you're talking about. So, Surah Mulk, verse 11. Okay, in fact, okay, this is a tajweed rule. This is so. This basically, this tajweed rule is when you have a noon sakin, like a noon with a sukun, and you have a ba after it, you call it ikhfa. Yeah, ikhfa. And you pronounce it as bidhanbihim. So some scholars say that you join your lips together, bidhanbihim, and some scholars say that you have a slight gap between bidhanbihim, and that meme is there to show that there is a slight meme sound that emanates from the mouth. That's what it basically means. Okay, next. What is the ruling on zakat on pensions? I pay into a pension which my company doubles. So what I would suggest is go to my zakat crash course, zakat, and I've explained pensions in there in detail. So I would suggest go on there, check on there. If you haven't checked on there, then I suggest you go and check on there now. It's called Zakat Crash Course. It's on my website, my YouTube channel, and in there I've explained about zakats. It's a very long video, but at the end of it, I've explained zakat on pensions. The easy, in a nutshell, zakat on pensions is only necessary on a pension where you have control of where the pensions are being invested. So if you've got control of where the money is being invested, which company or which pot it's being invested in, then you have to give zakat on it, even if you don't receive it back before the age of 60 or 65. Right? So that and every other zakat pension in the UK, they don't really fall under that. So the only one that falls under it is what we call a defined contribution scheme. So if you want more details on that, go to the crash course on zakat on my YouTube channel, and in there I've explained it. Okay. Right. Blessed journey. Does the down? Okay, done that one. Okay, so SMB can pray 8 tahajjud after Isha before witr. Yes, you can pray your tahajjud after Isha and before witr. Luke Brooks, if your parents are not Muslim and they are saying you can't fast, what can you do? I'm 17 and a revert. So, I mean, what I would say is, look, if it's in a situation where it's difficult for you to be able to fast and it's causing a lot of problem for you in your family, for you not to fast and then make up those fasts on another time for when your parents don't know, or when it's a bit easier for you, that would be allowed. In your circumstances, in your situations, if you're living with your parents and you're unable to fast because your parents are non-Muslim and they are imposing on you fasting, then you don't have to leave your house, right? You can stay with them, and you can make up those fasts on another time, right? I would say. But if you're a person who is able to live somewhere else, if you have the ability to live somewhere else, or for example, you can explain it to your parents. You can go to your parents and explain to them, look, all I have to do is this. I just have to eat at these times and these times not eating. Explain to them like a diet. Say it's like a diet basically, like on those intermittent fasting ones. And I'm not eating at these times. And hopefully, inshallah, make dua to Allah, and Allah will soften their hearts, and they might listen to you. But if last resort, if they're really not going to listen and they're forcing you, pressuring you, and it's causing you a lot of difficulty, if you weren't to fast in that situation, you won't be sinful for it, inshallah. Okay, SMB, can you pray Jum'ah in countryside? According to the Hanafis, there is no Jum'ah in a small little village. So in a small village where they have only a few houses, maybe, there's no Jum'ah there. Jum'ah can only be prayed in a large town or city. Huzaifa Tawfiq, is there hikmah behind not eating an animal which is slaughtered by someone who is not Ahl Kitab? So the hikmah could be, one of the possible hikmahs is that this shows the importance of Tawheed. In other words, Tawheed is extremely important when it comes to food, right? When it comes to slaughtering, because slaughtering is usually a religious thing. If you look historically, when you look at slaughtering was done in the name of God or gods. So this is why the Christians and Jews, and some even extend this to other sort of like monotheistic religions that existed in the past, if they were to slaughter in the name of God, the one God, then it would be permissible for a Muslim to eat that. All right, so it's the idea of the upholding the values of the oneness of Allah. Now, if people began to eat the slaughtered meat of Hindus or slaughtered meat of mushriks or other polytheists, then that would mean that they were like saying kind of implicitly that your values are okay, your beliefs are okay, and this is what Islam wants to draw the line. Okay, Kamran, can you still pray Taraweeh if you have only prayed Fard of Isha? Yes, you can pray Taraweeh if you only prayed Fard of Isha, but ideally you should pray your Sunnah Mu'akkadas. Why now? So, can we ask a tafsir related question? Yes, you can ask a tafsir related question. It's the month of Ramadan, the month of Quran, inshallah, you can ask. Okay, London Ramsey. Holding a Musaf and praying isn't allowed because excessive movement resembles the book. You get external influences. Why is 3 a condition external influence according to Imam Abu Hanifa? So basically, according to the Hanafis say when a person is praying Salat, they have to be connected with Allah. Right? So you're praying your Salat, you have to be connected with Allah. And when you say Allahu Akbar, it's as though you have made everything that's outside of your Salat unlawful for you. Like you've sanctified your Salat, you've made your Salat a direct connection with you and Allah, and you have promised Allah that you're not going to allow anything from the outside to influence your Salat. So this is why any external influence which is for your Salat, any external influence which is something that is going to help you in your Salat, right? As in, like for example, the Qibla, right? Because if you're facing the wrong Qibla, your Salat's not done. So this is clearly helping your Salat. Like if they don't tell you, if you don't listen to their advice about turning the Qibla, your Salat is not valid. But in a matter in which you don't need their help, right? For example, like a person knows from the Quran, knows Surah Ikhlas, or knows Surah Al-Falaq, or know these small surahs, they don't really need support from anyone else. As in their Salat is self-sufficient, itself sufficing. So therefore, if you get extra support, you're doing something which is extra voluntary. So that voluntary support you're getting from the outside, this is considered to be something which would be nullifying the Salat. So that's why the Hanafis have this idea, which is at-talqeen wa talaqqun, from the outside nullifies Salat. So we don't have any example, like for example, we don't have any example from the Prophet ﷺ that he accepted something from outside of the Salat, or the Sahaba, that they accepted things like, for example, someone recited and they recited after them in Salat. Anything like that. We don't have these examples. So that's why the Hanafis say, look, that the Salat should be self-containing, and outside external support is not allowed. That's basically. Sufyan, wa alaikum salam. Ramadan Mubarak, Sufyan. Ahlan wa sahlan, mashallah. Okay, in the Saudi Quran, on many pages on the side, it says Arabic in the Mutakaddimin and some other variants. What does it mean? It depends what it is. It could be referring to the way that script was written. So maybe the way that script was written. So there's a whole historic sort of like studies on the Quran over the years. So the font of the Quran over the years, the way that it was written, the way that certain markings were put on the Quran. There's a whole history behind it, right? And it started in the time after the time of Sahaba, and then it continued. And so today we have like these. If you look inside the Quran, you have an ayah, and then you have these kind of like circles, and you have numbers around them, and then you have like an ain, and sometimes you'd have a jim or a ha or a ha. So these kind of are different sort of like signifiers, indicators towards certain rules that a person should know whilst they're reciting this. So this is why you have these varying things. How is the roza going, bro? MashaAllah, the roza is going very well. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Today I have a little bit of a headache. But besides that, I mean, alhamdulillah, very good. MashaAllah. How's your roza going? Are you finding it easy? SMB, should the intention for tahajjud, awabin, duha, salats be sunnah? No, nafal. Just any nafal intention you make. As in, it's not a fard, it's not a wajib. So any intention you make is sufficient. Can you pray Ishraq Salah at home? Yes, you can. Al-Haq Ahl Sunnah. Salam Mufti. Loving the video. Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much. Is there a difference of opinion on the length of a beard, and is keeping a beard wajib or sunnah? So according to the Hanafi school, from the classical sort of like positions on the beard is extremely emphasized. And however, the size of the beard itself, we don't have anything from the Prophet ﷺ as to the size of the beard, right? So this is why you have Hanafi books don't really deal with the size of the beard, right? The classical books don't deal with this. Later Hanafi seem to deal with this, and they base it upon hadith like the hadith of Ibn Umar, and some of the contemporary Hanafis have mentioned that the beard is simply as long as you have hair on your jaw, and the size isn't necessary, as in the size, what size it has to be isn't necessary, because this was based upon, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, the beard was considered to be an identification for a Muslim to separate himself from the mushriks. So it was like an identifying marker for them. And as time went by, now people's sort of habits and customs have changed with regards to the facial hair. So it's not considered to be the same as it was before. So this is why many you find in Egypt, Syria, Jordan, maybe even Turkey as well, where the beard is very short. Sheikh Zahid al-Kawthari, for example, famous Hanafi scholar, he was one of the last Ottoman muftis of the beard. His beard is very short. Sheikh Abu Fatah Abu Ghudda's beard is very short, and then later on he lengthened his beard. So this is why the two positions are valid positions on this. Okay, is playing with dice haram? So I think I've mentioned this many times regarding dice masalas. So I won't go into detail. There's an ikhtilaf on this. And like I told you, there's a whole sort of like concept of games in the history of Islam. But the gist of it is that any game that has some sort of a benefit in there, strategy or some sort of a faida in there of any sort, then that cannot be, that isn't necessarily impermissible, right? So there's permissibility for it. Assalamu alaikum Ustad. Do you think the Medina book series is enough to understand the Quran? No, it's not enough to understand the Quran. If you mean you want to be able to read Arabic Quran and to be able to understand some of what is being said in the Quran, possibly. But to understand the Quran, you actually have to study Quran. Right? Quran has to be studied, because the language of the Quran is a very classical language of the Quran. And Medina books are more modern Arabic. So therefore you won't be getting, it's like saying, if a person was to study today's English, can they read Shakespeare? Not necessarily. Okay, remember, I'm going to finish at 6 o'clock, so any questions which are not to do with Ramadan, I'm not going to answer those, right? So I do apologize. I'm just going to go through the ones that are. Okay, so Assalamu alaikum. What is the ruling of using bakhur during Ramadan? It's permissible to use bakhur as long as you don't put it near your mouth and deliberately inhale it, like you deliberately want to inhale it. But if you put it near you and you are inhaling anyway, you got to stay alive, then it's fine. Question 1, is it permissible to watch films? Is there revealing clothing worn by actors, actresses? See, I'm not going to answer these because they're not really to do with Ramadan. So these kind of questions after Ramadan I'll answer. But the ones I am going to answer is the ones which are to do with Ramadan. So I've only got 10 minutes left. So I'm just going to skip through. If you've asked any questions to do with non-Ramadan things, I'm going to have to leave them out. Can a mahram woman give luqma to an imam if she's not praying while holding the Quran in Taraweeh? I mean, this is a kind of like tricky one. Yes in a way and no in a way. So yes in a way as in, it's a woman is allowed to correct an imam's recitation. And no in the sense that this seems to be resembling some sort of support from outside. Like someone is getting support from outside by the Quran. But generally I would say in the situation that we're living in at the moment with COVID-19 and all that, I would say it should be okay. Yeah, if it's only one or two places and it's not like a continuous like whole ayah or two ayahs, if it's just like one or two words correcting, then it should be fine. Omar Sheikh, is there a book giving options of the 4 schools together? Okay, so these kind of questions, I'm not going to be answering these. Blessed journey, what is preferred in terms of splitting the 8 rakats of tahajjud salah? 4 rakats, 2 rakats, 2 rakats, 4 rakats, 8 rakats with a single taslim. So according to Hanafis, twos is preferred, praying in twos. So 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, that's the preferred way. Yeah, so you pray twos, and then after that, if you want to do your witr, you pray 3 rakat witr. Zahid Malik, does using a kursuf break the fast? No. If the kursuf is inserted inside a woman, basically kursuf is like a small tampon. If the kursuf is inserted deep inside the vagina, which goes very deep, then some of the Hanafis have mentioned in the classical books that this is resembling like inserting something into the jawf, into the inner cavity of the body. But if part of it is hanging out like a tampon, there's part of it that's hanging out like a string or something, then that's not considered to be fully inserted, you can say. So it would be fine. What to do if I forgot which rakat I'm on? So if you forgot which rakat you're on, you simply remember which rakat you were definitely on, and then you do sajda sahwa at the end. Yeah, so for example, if you forgot you're on the 3rd rakat or 4th rakat, you definitely know it's the 3rd. You got doubt in the 4th. So therefore, add one more extra rakat at the end, do tashahud, add one extra rakat, and then do sajda sahwa at the end. Right? Omar Sheikh, can I do the tasbih after salat and recite ayat al-kursi? Can I recite in my heart or should I recite loud? Ideally, the narration mentions about saying it, so we would understand from the narration that it would be pronounced on the tongue. Why now? Jazakallah khair. I was reading Surah Nuh and I was wondering, normally Allah Ta'ala when mentions His Prophet, He describes him as Bashiran wa Nadhiran, but in this surah, even in the beginning, Allah Ta'ala just mentions just Indhar. I was wondering if this has something to do with the people of Nuh alayhi salam, that Allah Ta'ala already knew they were going to be difficult. Inna arsalna Nuhan ila qawmihi an anzir qawmaka min adhab. Yeah, so maybe it's to do with that, definitely. I mean, I haven't really looked into it. It's a good point. I haven't looked into it, so I wouldn't really be able to say on the top of my head. But yes, definitely Surah Nuh is mostly about the indhar, the warning, because they were disobedient people. And then you find in the Quran Andhara being mentioned, like the Prophet ﷺ is also mentioned as being Andhara. Yeah. Yundhiruhum. Yeah. Tundhiruhum. So there is this. So it all depends on the context as well. So maybe, in other words, because the number of people that were supporters of Nuh alayhi salam was very few, that maybe the Bashara was not mentioned. The Indhar is mentioned more, the warning is mentioned more, in the sense that this is something, yeah, so definitely that seems to be something plausible. I'd have to look into the tafsirs, maybe see if anyone else has sort of like highlighted anything there. Assalamu alaikum Shaqim. Sheikh, let's say even if Eid comes, we will still lock down. How do we perform Eid prayers? There's no Eid prayers. So if Eid prayers has to be done in a congregation. Right? You cannot do it at home. It has to be in a large congregation. Assalamu alaikum Mufti Sahib Abdullah Khan. Ramadan Barak to you. I heard someone saying that the 20 rakats Tarawih pray has the 8 rakats Tahajjud combined in it, and we don't need to pray Tahajjud separately. So you see, the issue is that the Prophet ﷺ, we don't have any narration that he commanded anyone to pray Tahajjud. right? So we have verses of the Quran, like Surah Muzammil and others, but we don't have anything the Prophet ﷺ, he commanded someone to pray. He did mention in some hadith that the people of the Quran should get up at night time, but there's no sort of like obligation for this. It was something the Prophet ﷺ used to do. Now, when it comes to this 8 rakat, do we have to pray 8 rakats of tahajjud? As in, so there's nothing to say that we have to, right? There's no evidence to say that we pray 8 rakats of tahajjud. This is a narration from Aisha radiallahu anha, and she says that the Prophet ﷺ in Ramadan, out of Ramadan, he didn't pray more than 8 rakats and then 3 rakats of witr, right? So 11 rakats basically. So there's nothing to say that we have to pray 8 or less than 8 or more than 8 in tahajjud, right? But because the Sahaba prayed tahajjud, because the Sahaba prayed Taraweeh, and the Taraweeh is something which is like from the time of Umar, 20 rakats was something that the Sahaba seemed to have no issue with, agree upon. So that's why we say the 20 rakats of tahajjud. Now, if someone says, well, can't we say 8 of that is the tahajjud? Well, that's trying to put two dots together. You're assuming one and you're assuming the other, and then you're trying to put the two together, and you're trying to say, well, 8 comes into 20, so does that mean that the 12 are extra in Ramadan? Not necessarily, that's just your assumption, right? So we don't have anything from Sahaba to say categorically that how much the tahajjud has to be prayed. So this is why, if you were to pray some extra tahajjud, that's very good, you can pray that. If you want to split up your tahajjud, your tarawih, and pray some, and then later on before Fajr pray some there, totally fine. There's flexibility in this matter, basically. Why now? Just in the Al Ahmad, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. SMB, can I pray 5 qada namaz all after Asr Salah, and can I do this every day to catch up all missed salats? Yes, you can. Hassan Khan, salam. Sorry for the donation appeared twice. That's why I took I took it off the chat. Will it go through? If it doesn't, please let me know how. Facebook, and we'll sort it out. Jazakallah khair, inshallah. I'll let you know, inshallah, Hassan, later on, inshallah. I'll have a check. Jazakallah khair. If anyone does want to donate to this channel, you can donate through this, or I've left a link in the description. There's a PayPal link there if you want to donate to this channel. And the PayPal link, basically the YouTube one, it will deduct 30%. So it deducts 30% from any donations given. The PayPal one doesn't. The PayPal one, I think it's only like 1% or 2% deducts. Right, so if anyone does want to donate to this channel, they can. This channel cannot accept zakat, but what I've done this Ramadan is I have a series on my uruk.com. So on uruk.com I have a series for children's tafsir. So I've been working on this children's tafsir. Basically, I've gone through Surah Fatiha and the last 9 surahs of the Quran, and it's designed for kids. It's like 15-minute long videos, and I think there's about, I don't know, 15 or 16 videos. I can't remember exactly how many videos, and they're designed for kids, and it's about £20 for the series, and all money from that is going to go to charity, inshallah. Yeah, so that's for kids. It's about £20 for the entire series, and all that money that is donated for that series is going to go to charity, inshallah. So if you want to give for charity, and we're going to try to give the money for a charity which is like an orphanage or to help children, right? So that's the idea. I'm going to try to give it for something which is going to help the children out there. So it's designed for children, and inshallah the charity is going to go to children. So you can check it out. So at the bottom, if you see uruk.com, yeah, so uruk.com, that basically is the one, right? So uruk.com, you go there, and it's called kids Quran or something, yeah, kids surahs, and in there it's there. Okay. Shaqim, Sheikh, any dua recommended for Taraweeh or Witr prayers? Any, you can read anything you like. Any. Zahid Malik, there seems to be a difference on whether discharge in a woman breaks wudu or not. Yes, there seems to be a difference of opinion. I say that the opinion which some later Hanafis have mentioned, attributing to Abu Hanifa, that it doesn't. I think that's the most easiest opinion for women to act upon. Yeah, so I think that would be the easiest one. Salil Majid, wa alaikum salam. Inshallah, I understand a large movement other than the salah postures breaks salah. Is there any guidance on what constitutes large movement? So they don't say large movement. The Hanafis don't say large movement. What they say is, they say amal kathir. And amal kathir is is defined in different ways. So amal kathir is excessive movements, is defined in different ways. So for example, like they say, anything which is to do with the preservation of your salat, then those actions are exempted. Like for example, let's say your hat falls down, you can pick it up, put it back on your head. Or for example, like a baby is crying and you had to, hold the baby. These kind of things which are not going to really kind of, then the Hanafis have said this would be okay. So these would not fall into excessive. Excessive would be something which is unnecessary, and if a third person was looking at you, they, for an instant, they would assume you're not in salat. SMB intention for Tahajjud Nafal, yes, Nafal, London. What was actually done between 4 rakats of Taraweeh? Imam Malik students would pray Nafal, people in Makkah would tawaf. What did the Prophet ﷺ action? So there doesn't seem to be, see, the Prophet ﷺ, this idea of the Taraweeh in this form doesn't seem to have come directly from the Prophet ﷺ. Like we don't have direct narrations of exactly how the Prophet ﷺ prayed the night prayer in Ramadan. That's why there's this whole ikhtilaf about how many rakats. But in Umar radiallahu anhu's time and the Sahabas and Tabi'eens, what you mentioned about the people of Medina doing Nafal and people of Makkah doing Tawaf, that seems to be just the practice. The word Taraweeh means rest. Actually means rest. And they would have a rest. Between every 4 Taraweeh, they would have a rest, the duration of 2 rakats. So for example, you pray 4. How long does it take you to pray 2? Let's say 10 minutes. So 10 minutes, 10 minutes, and then you have a 10 minutes rest. Taraweeh. Then you pray 4, and then you have 10 minutes rest. Like that. So Taraweeh means rest. The idea is you don't exert yourself all in one go. You kind of like break it down. Next. Yasin, how do we understand ikhtilaf in light of conflicting events, such as when some people celebrate Eid on a day that another people in the same vicinity are fasting the 30th of Ramadan? Excellent question this is. So, you see, when it comes to fiqh, fiqh is a very, very powerful sort of a mechanism that the Sharia has endorsed by which we can try and understand Allah's law. But the same problems, fiqh has sort of like limits. And the limits mean that there will be like confliction. So in other words, you have an ayah of the Quran, you have a hadith, you have a practice of a Sahaba. The jurist has to try and take those and has to try and best understand them as best as possible. How would I deal with this situation? Because you might not get the exact answer from the Quran or from the hadith or from the Sahaba. So you're going to have to try and figure it out for yourself. So this figuring out for yourself might differ with another person trying to do the same thing, but he looks at it from a different way, right? And then like the half, the cup with half water, is it half full, is it half empty? You have a difference of opinion. Or for example, like you have the number 8 and you ask 2 people, write a sum and come up with the number 8. So someone might say 1 plus 7, and someone might say 2 plus 6, and someone might say 3 plus 5. So you have different ways of how you come up with that. So the idea is when we have like public issues, there shouldn't be ikhtilafs in public issues. Public issues, the government is designed, having an Islamic government is designed so that you don't have an ikhtilaf in public issues. Personal issues, ikhtilaf is fine. Scholars don't have an issue with that. But public issues, now when we're living in non-Muslim countries, we don't have like a governing body that all Muslims conform to. And this is the problem we have in the West now, which is that you have Eids on different day because there's no overarching governing body. Like who are they going to follow? So this is why in public issues we should try to have some sort of like a some sort of a unification. Naseem, alaikum assalam. How to stand up after completing sujood for qiyam? How to stand up? I don't understand. So you just stand up? I mean, according to Hanafis, prefer to stand up on the balls of your feet. And according to the Shafis and others, you use your hands to get up. Blessed journey. Would it be better to leave the witr as the last salat of the night prayer? Another 2 rakats after the witr? Yes, you can do that if you want. Yeah, you can. If you are middle of the row in Taraweeh congregation, and if you break your salah, if you walk in front of other people, does salah break? No. Salah, number 1, salat will never break because someone walked in front of you. Never. Number 2, if you break your salat, you're allowed to walk in front of them. Even though normally walking in front of someone is considered to be extremely sinful, offensive. But if you have broken your salat, you're actually allowed to, because that's the only way you can exit the salat. So you're allowed to in that situation. Ammar, isn't there a hadith regarding trimming eyebrows or something like that? Not trimming eyebrows. There is a hadith which mentions about the thinning of the eyebrows. Thinning. So there's a difference between thinning the eyebrows and not trimming those. Trimming, I don't know. Allah, I've never come across it. Is gaming halal? Gaming as in playing games? Yes, gaming should be halal as long as there's nothing inappropriate in the games. Abdullah Khan, Jazakallah khair. I really appreciate you taking your time for us. Even fasting, Jazakallah khair. Yes, I'll be finishing now anyway. I'm going to no more questions, inshallah. Are reciting with maqamat permissible? Yes, as long as you don't break the rules of tajweed. Blessed Journey. Does the masbook say takbir when standing for his missed rakat, or does he stand without saying anything and then continue? Takbir, yes. So in Hanafi fiqh, every movement you make, you do a takbir. Yeah. Sufyan, please click like button, everyone, inshallah. It will help the channel. Jazakallah khair. Yeah, click the like button, guys. Yeah, hit the like button, and inshallah, help the channel, inshallah, grow. MashaAllah, the channel has grown a lot because of you guys' support. And what do you guys think of the new hadith series that I put up? So hopefully one should be coming out today, inshallah. I'm thinking of maybe putting it up after iftar time, like before Taraweeh time, UK time, that is. What do you guys think of that series? Let me know what you guys think of that, inshallah. There's a normal question I'm going to be answering now. So I did promise I'm going to finish at 6 o'clock, 1 hour only. So for Ramadan, these sessions are only going to be for an hour. One is because people have things to do as well, and Ramadan I can only talk a certain amount as well. So yeah, so Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair. I will see you guys next time, inshallah, next week hopefully, with the live Q&A. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.